Good evening. My name is Gary Seinfeld, I'm the president of the Cornwall Association. On behalf of the association and all of Cornwall and all our candidates, thank you for coming tonight in person and on Zoom.
Yes.
Just some housekeeping. Please silence any devices and know that this is going to be recorded and posted soon after. There'll be an hour of First Selectman candidate discussions led by Richard Schlesinger, a short break, and then we're going to have the Selectmen candidates. Each candidate will make opening and closing remarks. Richard will then ask some questions of both candidates. They will each be able to answer, and then the other candidate will be able to answer as well. After that, we will open it up to the questions that have been submitted in writing. Richard will ask them to a candidate. The other candidate will then answer as well if they choose and have a short period of time. That's it. And please be quiet because we have microphones. And Richard, it's yours.
Thank you. Oh, let's be quiet. Except me, I get to be loud. Thank you all for coming. This is a great turnout for Wednesday night. So we'll get right to it. So we're not here too late. We know our two candidates who need no introduction, but since I need to do something to justify my salary, I'll introduce them anyway. Gordon Ridgway has been the first selectman since 1991. 1991, I think, right? 32 years. Also a member of the volunteer fire department. He's a home educated fellow, went to Cornwall Community School, then on to St. Lawrence University. He works on his family farm where he grows really great tomatoes and occasionally a town hall, right? Right, when you're, yeah. Casey Baird, who's running on the Republican ticket, has worked and lived in Cornwall, according to you, for more than 50 years.
Yeah.
That makes you almost a regular.
Yeah, we bought Bears in September of '72.
I was just getting to that. Best known for being the proprietor of Baird's General Store. You served on the Board of Selectmen for 12 years, Board of Finance for 12 years too?
12 plus, yeah.
12 plus. And now he works at the Price Chopper in Great Barrington and as a senior accountant at Gear. So these are our two first selectmen candidates. Let me start by asking a question about economic development.
We're supposed to give our openings.
You are correct, Gordon. That's why you're sitting over there. You are supposed to give opening statements. So who wants to go first?
Okay.
Casey Baird.
Can you hear me?
You have to push that button.
I have to hold it in.
No, just once.
How about now?
Yep.
Can you?
still hear you. Yeah. But like. Yeah. So you can hear me now?
There.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Cornwall Association and Gary for putting this on, and Richard for being the moderator, and all of you for coming out and asking questions and seeing why I'd like to be first selectman. And let's start. I just want to. Gordon's done the job for 32 years, but I just want to bring a new perspective, a new set of eyes. I mean, for the first time in 32 years, we'd have an opportunity to have a whole new set of Board of Selectmen, different perceptions and just different thoughts on moving our town forward. I heard you're gonna ask a question for economic development, so we'll wait on that, but you know, we have many issues currently in place in Cornwall, and who knows what's coming down the future. And I look forward to working with the other two selectmen in achieving that, and along with working with other boards and commissions for everyone to work towards one single goal, and that's serving in the best capacity for the town of Cornwall.
Thank you, Casey. Gordon?
Hello. Hello. Okay, so yes, good to see everybody here. It's great to have a good turnout to talk about some of the issues and challenges facing the town. I have been, had the honor of being, First Selectman for over 30 years. And I would say that the last several years have probably been the most challenging of those times. I think it does not make sense to have a completely new board of selectmen. There's a lot of complexity in life at the local level at this point. There's a lot of projects underway. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And it's important to have competent, experienced leadership at the top of your town government. There are going to be 2 new selectmen, but I'm the only incumbent person that is running for re-election on the board. And again, I think the town has we worked hard to come through the pandemic as a community, and I think we did a good job working together, and we've emerged stronger as a communities since before that. There's more kids at the school. There is there's more of a safety net, a social safety net for people that need assistance, and there's more people volunteering on many organizations that help us enhance life here. For example, there's a lot of things that come with the job of being First Selectman. My day started today at 7 o'clock at the highway garage, where we talked about a dam that needs fixing on Flat Rocks Road, and then we talked about grading some of the dirt roads. From there, in the mornings, I go to town hall where I interact with various town leaders, and we work on problems that need to be addressed. Also, often at night, there are meetings with town boards and commissions. And so it's a very collaborative group that works together to solve problems. And again, after that, I often participate. Like tomorrow, I'm going to a meeting of the Connecticut Council of Small Towns, which works on small town issues throughout the state. I'm also active in the Northwest Council of Governments, which works on regional issues. I'd like to thank Janet and Priscilla for working to get things accomplished. We set some goals out at the start of our term, and I think we've done a lot to accomplish those goals. We did, for us, housing was #1 issue, and we have worked hard to implement the town housing plan. We have also assisted on getting the waste water treatment program for West Cornwall through a referendum. And that is going to require a lot of engineering work to make that a success. We have updated the transfer station and increased recycling in town. We have also worked with companies to do a long-term goal of having improved fiber optic cable in town. I think perhaps most importantly, we have supported volunteer organizations in town. And I think if people went to the open house at the fire department this weekend, they saw a good display of interaction of some of the youngest members of the community with an important volunteer organization and people coming together. Also this weekend, people were out here on the space between this building and the town hall planting bulbs, which will come up in the spring. As a volunteer effort to enhance things here. And we also had the run and wag for the little guild. So there's a lot going on in town. And beyond that, I also do have contacts with our federal and state elected officials that can bring support when we need it to the town, whether it's a weather emergency or whether it's getting support for projects like the wastewater plant. So I think it's important to have that kind of experience and those kind of contacts, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gordon. You actually came in under time.
I've got more.
I guess the secret's out. I want to talk about economic development. So much for the surprise factor. I don't know how many of you guys are, are new here or new-ish here. Well, John and I have lived here since 1998, and I didn't know this. I was talking to our neighbor Susie Williamson, who is one of the great neighbors of all time, who remembers a time in West Cornwall where there was a barber shop. I had to write this down. A barber shop, 2 grocery stores, gosh darn it, 2 grocery stores, a hardware store, a package store, a small restaurant, and a laundry. All in West Cornwall. My question, and we'll start with Gordon since Casey started the openings, is do you see a time when we'll ever get back to that level of activity? And do you think we should? Gordon? And on this one, I hate to do this to you, but you got 1 minute to answer. We'll give you a little bit of that, but not too much.
The second part first, I think we definitely need to get back to that level of activity, and the Board of Selectmen actually made it so we were one of the first towns in our region to have an economic development committee, especially for a town this size. So that shows our commitment to economic development. We also again took a bold move as a town with the West Cornwall revitalization, of which the wastewater plant will be a key part. Just this morning, as I said, the interaction of town officials, I talked to our new building official, Peter Russ, who shared with me the news of a great plan to rebuild and expand Northeast building supply. And that personally resonates with me because I was there when the lumberyard burned about 10 years ago. And there's some people who were skeptical, saying it will never come back. So my approach was that day after the fire, I met with the owners and I said, I can help you, even though I didn't know who to talk to, I can help you get a state bridge grant, which they did get, and that helped them stay in business, keep the doors open. It was tough when I saw the people show up for work and they were upset on losing their job. So I made a commitment, and it was great to see when they reopened, those same people working again. So again, to see it come to the next level and hear that Northeast Building Supplies can actually have a building that will put all their services under one roof. It will be a large building, but it will again draw people not just to West Cornwall, but to Cornwall Bridge. And that will combine with a newly reopened market, which I think will really revitalize Cornwall Bridge. And then hopefully we will get West Cornwall also back on track.
Thanks, Gordon. Casey?
In my personal feeling, and maybe because I've worked there for so long, is that Cornwall Bridge should be our business district. And West Cornwall be more of a destination type place. We have the covered bridge, little cafes, maybe some offices to build that up and get some traffic going through there. But along Route 7, you go up and down Route 7, you go through Sheffield, Great Barrington, where I am, down in Kent. It's right on a main thoroughfare. And that's where we, as we used to have with the lumberyard and the Grant brothers had their restoration, and build that up again with, along with the package store and a bank. Have that as your business center. There's plenty of parking there on both sides. And I know my store, we used to have a well problem there, and I believe the Shepherds drilled a new well, and maybe it's better or not. But and across the street, and those other buildings, I understand there's some shared wells, and maybe they have enough water there. But we do have a public water supply that, if could be expanded, open up opportunities across the street. Maybe restaurants, maybe little cafes or whatever, or doctor's offices or anything. I know years ago, we looked into working with Sharon Pharmacy to maybe have them brought in by being told that it's cut it off, and
Unfortunately.
we can revisit this at another time.
Gary's was good,
Yeah.
not me.
I saw.
Just to follow on this though, I wonder if I could get you guys to both be as specific as you can about whether there's more that the town should do to encourage businesses here. In case you will start with you.
Okay, well, I thought Oscar Anderson in the last EDC meeting had a really good point. And we hear about it up in Salisbury and Norfolk, about people with means that may want to invest in, say, the buildings, or to bring businesses in. Part of the problem is if you're an entrepreneur and you come in, if you don't have the capital to run your business, it gets hard. And for the most part, we're a seasonal town. At Bears, we used to run from the opening day of fishing through the holidays. And of course, what every business needs, or customers, you need revenue. And if you don't have that, it makes the winters very, very long. And
So what can the town do?
well, as I was saying, if there was a group, like I said, with people with means that can invest or bring in people and maybe give them a cut on rent or something to get started, let them get on their feet so they don't have so much overhead as they're trying to get their businesses flowing. Working with National Iron Bank also to see if they can offer loans that are reasonable for them so they can stay open. Be cut again.
Would you answer that as specifically as you can?
Okay, I'll try to be specific. I'd say two things. My approach has always been that Cornwall is actually a 4-season destination, not a summertime place only, in building businesses that will be open and sustainable through the year is an important thing. I think the most important thing the town hall can do is assist businesses, because it is difficult to sometimes get established here. And so if I hear somebody like wants to open a market in Cornwall Bridge or West Cornwall, I've met with both people to make sure that the town is assisting them to cut through whatever red tape or hurdles they have. Secondly, one thing the town has done is to make it easier for people to work from their homes. And Cornwall has one of the highest percentages of self-employed people in the town, in Litchfield County. And so allowing more people to work at home is very important, because that also builds a customer base for other businesses in town. And also attending the Economic Development Committee meetings and working collaboratively, I think, is important, in trying to unify the businesses and promote them to the outside of Cornwall.
Thank you both. We'll move on now to, well, let me ask one other related question to this. And this will go to Casey first. Is there a need, do you see a need to attract more young people here? You know, we got some new ones during the pandemic. Is that enough? Do you want to get more? Do you want to, because that would change the town a lot.
Well, it would change the town, you know, for the school population, for volunteer services such as the fire department, the EMS, etc. But of course, the real elephant in the room is where can they live?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I just want to know if you think there's a need to do it and how you want to do it.
Well, that's where your future is. There's definitely a need for younger families to come in and be part of our community.
Any ideas how to attract them?
Well, the supply or the inventory of homes that are affordable or where they can live. You know, if you don't have a roof over your head, you're not going to be coming here.
Gordon, your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think it's definitely need to have a younger population, and we've seen the benefit for that. When the pandemic started, I believe it or not, was one of the younger people in the fire department. I'm luckily no longer in that category, and I think that shows the importance of having younger people in our town, because people can't respond if they're not here. I think also having younger people helps communities in ways that may not always be obvious. We spent a lot of time trying to keep Sharon Hospital a full service hospital and keep the delivery room open. But we need young people to have a delivery room. But if we lose a part of Sharon Hospital, we may lose the entire hospital, which again affects everybody, because when people are transported to a hospital that's farther away, that's the problem. So again, I think making it easier for people to work here is a key to this equation, and also promoting the excellent school we have and having town leadership interact with new people, welcoming new people in. This newcomers tea is a great thing, and it's great to see people that come to the tea, know them, and then see them a year or two later volunteer. So the system that we have in place works, but we need to be vigilant. Like gardening, you gotta stay on.
So, like gardening, you said? Let's move on to an issue that Casey just referred to, affordable housing. This will be for Gordon. You answered, yeah, so we'll be Gordon. We're sort of behind the state's goal of 10% of affordable housing. How do we close that gap? What are we, 3.6%? Is that right?
That sounds about right, but also as I was on the Cornwall Housing Corporation, believe it or not, before I was even on the Board of Selectmen, so this is something that's important to me and always has, to have my contemporaries and my kids' contemporaries be able to live in town as opposed to living with their parents, which is currently happening. So how we get there is use some of the models that have worked in other areas and also build on our success. One of the reasons that number is so low is because we have a home ownership program that is crafted for Cornwall people that is not strictly affordable by the state standard, but I believe there's 16 houses now that are owned by Cornwall residents that are active in the town that may make more money than you can make and qualify for affordable house, but it is a very successful program. So again, having housing programs that are catered to the town's needs are very important. And I also have attended all the meetings of the Cornwall Housing Task Force, and I will be going to another forum in Warren next week to talk about housing. And there are some opportunities, and we have a good group that's getting together to look at some opportunities for multifamily housing and being creative, allowing people to build smaller houses on smaller lots. And just this week, I've had people from town say they are interested in potentially financing some affordable housing. And again, that's why it's important for the First Selectman to be out and about in the community, to have the buzz of the community, because a lot of times the solutions to our town's problems are right here in the community.
Casey?
What we're missing, of course, in Cornwall is that bridge from, say, being in an affordable housing situation and looking to go to the next step and have home ownership. Yes, we've had the plot program, and that's great, but of course, the Great American Dream is to own your own home. And that hopefully with people that may want to invest and build these affordable houses could be another step to draw more people in, and then working from there to see if they can save up enough money to be able to go and build a house or have one. But once again, we have a very, very small inventory of homes to buy.
And so how would you deal with that?
By working with the Cornwall Housing Group, that'll be actually they'll be becoming a commission, and brainstorming and getting ideas and finding properties and that we can build and allow these people to or allow people to be able to become part of our community.
Gordon, do you think we're at a point now in the town where we should be identifying specific locations for affordable housing? The Falls Village is building some, right?
They're underway, and actually I probably meet weekly with representatives from the Housing Corporation to discuss doing just that. So I think the town with its housing partners should identify land. But also there's another thing, and I saw Anna Tamel here that reminded me that part of the opportunity we have is to change some of the zoning regulations to make it easier for people to build housing in Cornwall, and to expand the ability of accessory dwelling units, which I believe they're considering right now. So that's what makes the job of being a first selectman exciting, because there's a lot of home rule in Connecticut, and we have the ability to tweak the rules under which we live. And there are things that can happen with the planning and zoning thing that will allow people more opportunity for accessory dwelling units, which again are different. But I think to have success in this, you have to have a multi-pronged strategy. And the latest thing is that the state will allow you to do affordable housing with market rental housing also. So you can mix up housing stock to have some of it be strictly affordable and some of it be market rate, because there's some people in town that can't qualify for affordable housing, but they are seniors, and we'd love to have our younger people and our older people be able to live in a variety of housing.
Thanks. Casey, you want to wrap this up?
Oh, I will, and I would love to meet with the housing groups and come up with ideas of how we can get this started and get the houses built. It's very important if we want to, once again, going back to your question before about bringing young people in. I mean, those would be the future of our town. And I would definitely look forward to working with zoning to, if somebody wants to put in a development, as I said to you when we spoke, I would love to see, if you ever watched It's a Wonderful Life, build a Bailey Park, something like that, where people can come in and buy a 2-3 bedroom home with 2 baths and a fireplace.
We'll move on to discussing the water treatment plant. Casey, I guess we'll start with you this time. Is that an important project to you?
Well, it is, and when I ran West Cornwall Market in the old Users building, I used to think that West Cornwall, right in the center there, needs either water or it needs septic. And the septic, it's needed. It's such a small footprint that you can't meet the setbacks for a well and a septic system. I wish that maybe the net could have been cast a little wider and get more users on it. Especially if they're building and they're digging trenches, well, it may be cheaper while you have people there already to run the lines. Even if they don't tap into it, at least in the future, somebody may want to, or if their septic system gives out, then they can go in on it. I remember from the Cornwall wastewater town meeting that Mary Woodman asked if her house would be included on it, and she's down River Road, and she was told that no, because they weren't going to cross the brook. But now they got to cross the brook to serve the buildings that were initially intended for. But it's definitely needed.
And Gordon, you spent a good part of your term working on it, so I know you think it's important. But talk a little bit about why it's important and what it could contribute to the town.
I think it's important for many reasons, mostly because a lot of the potential of Cornwall to restore it to what Susie mentioned as a vibrant place. It's important not just for people who live there, but it is important regionally and to the rest of the town. The town cannot really survive with hollowed out commercial centers. On the other hand, it can thrive if the commercial centers thrive, and certainly that will happen. But also, this is probably the biggest construction project the town has undertaken, and I probably talk to the engineers at least once or twice a week. So again, you're talking about the election of the top elected official that has a lot of institutional knowledge on all these issues, and to try to take on issues like housing in West Cornwall from a dead stop would make it difficult for these things to proceed as quickly as they need to, because we have to interact with the federal and state government, as well as the local government, as far as getting permits. We have to talk to the health district, we have to talk to the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Health. So these are complex, complicated issues that need some experience when you're interacting with your state and federal partners and your engineer.
How much is it gonna cost the town?
Currently, the price is estimated at $6.3 million. We were able to get a $3 million grant to offset that, so the net cost would be $3 million. And again, it was because of our experience, because of our team, we were able to, in a very short order, put together 24 letters of support from various government agencies on all levels of government, including federal, state, and local partners. And so we were able to get the largest grant in this congressional district in that grant cycle to West Cornwall, even though we're one of the smallest towns.
Will taxes have to go up?
I don't believe they will, because we, again, all issues play themselves out here locally that play themselves out nationally, but we have planned this so that it will, when the town goes out to bond, we will have retired the bond that we had for the school addition. So we should be able to dovetail that in pretty substantially, and so we will not see a tremendous tax increase. Again, depends on the interest rates somewhat, but we're optimistic. And again, we're trying to work through the complicated process to get us onto the engineering stage, the design stage. We're almost there, and again, we've been working on this every week.
And Casey, would you support it if it meant raising the taxes?
It's a project that's needed, and just going back to Gordon's point. Doing accounting or working where I work with Price Chopper, you have to leave a paper trail that someone can follow in case something happens to the one in charge. And if I'm elected, I know the experience and the contacts and everything, well, that should be all left and available. So whoever goes into that job can pick up from where it was left off. Yes, I'm very good at talking with people. I love to talk to people and also working with them. And so yes, it's very, very important. And if taxes do go up, as Gordon said, there's one bond coming off, but that shouldn't, whether bonds or whatever the cost is, if there's a need, we need to prioritize of what projects that we have coming down. There may be another project down the road in a couple of years or whatnot. And we need to take care of that. And worry about cost is always worrisome to people, but if it's a need, then we need to take care of it.
Let me just ask my masters, how many questions do we have? Is that...
Oh, boy. Questions for the first Selectman.
This is all very high tech.
Oh, can't you tell?
I could, we have.
So we do, well, two of them actually, I peeked. Two of them have to do with what you were just talking about. So how, we run at the affordable housing.
Okay.
So I'm sure you could probably just review those. And this is probably how we're gonna do it.
Okay.
Those two are related.
Okay. Sorry, we were just.
So if you want to reread
organizing
those, you
these.
think we've already covered that?
Because. Let me, I'm trying to read this handwriting, I'm sorry, and I have the worst handwriting ever. It's by state law. Who is this for? I guess this is for. Rick, who is it for both of them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. By state law, Cornwall should have 20 to 25 more housing units that are affordable by hardworking families earning up to $80,000 a year. How are you guys going to make that happen? I think we covered a little bit of that. Is there anything else you want to say about that? Well, Gordon, you want to start on that?
Sure, I think the key thing for the town right now is to develop a list of land that's for sale. And again, I've been working with the Housing Corporation on doing that, and land that's accessible. We also started a dialogue to work with the state. The state owns 7,000 acres of Cornwall land, and I said, we're not greedy, all we need is about 50 or 20 of that. So we're working with representatives to see whether there may be some property there from the state. We've also started a dialogue to see whether a local land trust can make housing part of their priority list. So when they're offered land, we can work together with them on identifying things. So I think the key thing is the land. Again, we're beginning to get a local group together that may be able to help with some of the financing and design of the project. And it's not our first rodeo. We have built Koonman Village and Bonnybrook, which have been successful. And we have the ability of looking at places like Litchfield that just pulled off a very good owner occupied development of about 6 or 8 small energy efficient houses. So there are places, and the state has helped finance some of those things. So there certainly is a lot of opportunity there that we hope to pull together.
Casey?
Well, working with federal and state and coming up with plans, but along with planning and zoning, we all have to work together. It's of course not just coming from the selectman's office, the first selectman's office, but I would certainly want to be the facilitator to get the ball rolling. Contact the state, all right, what lands are you gonna offer for sale, or how about just give it back to us? And but once again, that would all be in negotiations. Working with the Cornwall housing groups and getting this started so we can, I mean, in Great Barrington, they just built that one just before Big Y. And they're building another. It can be done. We're not inventing the wheel here, but it's just finding, as Gordon said, the land in which to offer the housing for these for anyone, for the people under the 80 grand.
Here's a little change of subject. Nancy Berry asks, would you consider having a Cornwall, Connecticut.gov website for use in handling government communications? Casey, I guess Gordon went first last time.
Yes, well, we currently have the Cornwall website, but the Connecticut.gov one would serve the town better. Then most definitely go that route. I know Rocco's worked very hard on it, and maybe whatever the web design group that we had could work with you and develop that if it would mean a better product.
And
But other than that, you know, if it ain't broke, go fix it.
Okay, Gordon?
This has been suggested before, and of course, I'm always open to looking at new ways of doing things, but when I look at other towns' websites, they seem to be, for lack of a better word, boring compared to ours. Ours is multidimensional and has many aspects to it that welcome people to town, give a really good reflection of all the things that go on here, as opposed to what boards and commissions are meeting on a certain night. So, and again, I think that is part of having a good web presence, and having a creative web presence is a key part in attracting people here, both visitors and people that want to learn about your schools, your community. I think our website really gives a sense of this place when it has a great record of all the events happening here. So again, I'd be open to listening to things. I wouldn't want to have 2 websites, because the history of our town is somewhat over duplicative. So I think that might in some ways confuse people more than it would help, but I'm very happy and proud of the website that we have here looking.
This is a highly technical question, which I'll give it a whirl. It's from Connie Hedden for Casey. The fire apparatus, ambulances, highway department trucks, and school buses are all 8 foot to 8 foot 6 inches wide. An additional minimum 20 inches to those dimensions. Oh, you have to add an additional 20 inches to those dimensions if you include the width of the mirrors. Casey, if you become selectman, First Selectman, will you research and establish a consistent road width for road improvement within the town of Cornwall? The current road surface on Popple Swamp is 17 feet and less. The previous road surface on Popple Swamp was 6 inches or more wider. Will you sacrifice road width for distance of road surface to be improved?
Well, I believe the road width, if I'm correct, should be 20 feet. If it's possible to expand it that way. I would certainly wanna look at it if it's feasible. And but also, I would also wanna look at it for safety. We have a lot of e-bikes and bicycles, tooling around town. We need people to be safe, safety is a top priority. And so if it's possible to widen the road without taking down any old stone walls or whatever, then yeah, and it can improve the drainage, on the roads while you're at it. I would be open to looking at working with Jim Bannicky, the highway foreman, and yeah, I would consider that.
Gordon?
Yeah, we do have a organized road resurfacing program that does approximately 1/5 of the town every year. Some of our roads were designed and were actually state roads, including the one right past here, so they tend to be wider, and some of them are narrower. I think it depends somewhat on the traffic flow and whether the road is a through road or it's a dead end or whatever. So we do have a whole variety of roads. Our big priority is try to resurface them, and in some cases we do actually rebuild and repave the roads, which is very much more expensive than just resurfacing. So again, we try to, when we do resurface, we try to grade the road edges and widen them back out to about 20 feet if it's feasible. In some areas like Everest Hill or Dudleytown, it's probably not going to be that wide, but some of them tend to be low traffic or dead end.
That raises a question in my mind about infrastructure generally. The bridge on River Road off of 128 had to be shored up after the last, or one of the last big storms. Gordon, you mentioned that the dam on Flat Rocks Road is weakening or needs work. How well prepared is the town for the challenges of the changing climate? Gordon, you go.
Well, it's hard to predict actually how much and how much the climate and what the impacts are going to be, but certainly we have seen in the last year more flooding and more climate impact than we've seen before. And we are seeing pressure on certain points. We are lucky that we did rebuild, I think, 6 bridges in the last 15 years. So we have 33 bridges in town. They've all been inventoried and inspected. So in some ways, we're probably ahead of many towns doing that, but we are also with the climate change. This is a whole new thing. Wasn't on our priority list, but I saw when we did make our goals for the last the last term, we said our 10 goals are subject to change by the Board of Selectmen and Mother Nature. So I think we were somewhat aware of our ability compared to Mother Nature to throw some curveballs. We are seeing some pressure points, and again, I think that's why it's important to have an experienced highway department and an experienced Board of Selectmen, because we know if there's a flood, what will be the likely impacted areas. There are some areas in West Cornwall we're looking at. We're also looking at doing some flood mapping, and we are also, for the first time we saw a railroad track washed out that was put down in 1845. So that is unprecedented impact on some areas of town. I think it's clearly going to be on the next Board of Selectmen's agenda.
Casey, are you satisfied with the ability to handle all this stuff?
Well, I know when I was on the Board of Selectmen, we had spoken about, because we had, it was 10, 12 years ago, where we had a heavy rain in October. And we had talked about cleaning out some of the streams. You know, as you have water coming down, it gets silt in there or rocks. And maybe that needs to be part of the infrastructure too, maybe not just think about sewage or water or buildings, but to try and be a little bit more proactive there, where we can make that on a regular type basis, just making sure that if we can increase, but hold the water, maybe slow it down some, prevent flooding, and checking the floodplains and everything, that it should be part of maybe general maintenance. Maybe not annually, but
But do you think the town is well positioned to handle these new challenges?
Once again, I think we have to be proactive and maybe get ahead of it. And once again, like I said, if you can, maybe some dredging of some of the swamp areas, if that's possible. And just to let them, with the water increase, be able to sustain more before it really becomes a problem to our bridges and whatnot.
So let me just ask one last question from the audience, then I've got a few general questions, and then we'll be done with this section. This is from, I don't know who it's from, somebody, Michelle. This is for Casey. What's your plan to deal with emergencies, meetings, or other issues that require your attendance if you're at your job in Great Barrington?
That's a good question. I'm surprised I haven't heard more of it as a campaign trail, but thank you for that question. At my job in Great Barrington, where it's different than it was 10 years ago. I was 54 years old, and there's no way I was going to retire. Well, I'm 64 now, so once again, I could consider it, but I'm not going to promise that I'm going to do it right now. And in case of emergencies, as we've seen through COVID, we've all become able to work more remotely. I'd have a contact list to get the ball rolling in case of an emergency. Make sure that all the proper agencies are taken care of, or working on taking care of the emergencies. Believe me, if there's a snowstorm, people aren't running up to Great Barrington to buy a pound of salmon. So I'll take the day off and be here for our town.
How's the sound?
The salmon is good, but once again, they're not thinking.
It's okay.
Great Barrington's a lot like it used to be at Bears.
Yeah.
You know, they hit you the day before the storm, because they're all gonna hunker down, and why they're buying milk and all these perishables if they're gonna lose power.
So, or the rules require that I allow you to answer for a minute?
Yeah, I think that the job of First Selectman is a hands-on job. It's not necessarily a desk job, but you have to be able to respond quickly to matters large and small. Often I make house calls, but also say when we had the flood in July, I went down to West Cornwall 4 times on a Sunday and into that night. Later with Jim Bannicky, the highway foreman, back down there at 6:30 in the morning, saw that Trinity Conference Center was cut off, the road was washed out. We needed to get our emergency people together there. We have a small highway department. We have a wonderful first responders and fire department. We have a great EMD, emergency management director in Diane Beebe, but somebody has to coordinate that and work with them for a unified command structure, and that's hands-on work. I learned when I was first elected First Selectman, the slogan that the buck stops here. Somebody called me up, they couldn't get a hold of the highway department, said I have a dead deer on the side of the road. What should I do? And I said, well, I guess the buck stops here, I'll come down and work it. That was Harry Truman, not me. But there is a lot of responsibility, either statutorily or in my mind, you have to be there to witness what's happening, because each one of these emergencies, each day can be slightly different than the time before. So you have to have some ability to react quickly to whatever is in front of me.
Let me ask one more question, and I think we'll move on to closing statements. The property taxes were up this year because of the increased number of students at the high school. Do you think taxes will go up again in your term or your next term? I forget where we are. I think Casey, I think you go first.
Well, yeah, actually, I was doing on the Board of Selectmen meeting last night, and it appears that the ratio that our Cornwall students will cause an increase of the regional school board budget. I love numbers and I love budgets, and we can make it work. We've held mill rates low, but sometimes there's a cost to that. And but you want it to be a nice steady mill rate. Try to keep taxes flowing evenly from year to year. You don't want ups and downs. That's not always possible if emergencies come around like we have with the bridge this year. But if we set a budget, if I was to set a budget, I don't want to go chasing a number. It's much like when I do inventory, and I have to do it every 4 weeks. My manager always says, well, you have a budgeted amount that you have the target. I don't chase that. The numbers are what the numbers are. And you can put controls in, maybe you put something off, but there could be a cost to that.
So would you anticipate a tax increase?
Once again, I have to look at and see what departments are coming in at. Zero-based budgeting, of course, is obvious. They need to be accountable, much like I'd have to be accountable for the whole town of what we present to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance might say, well, go and take another 3% off or whatnot. And that I'll have to get as I'm sitting there and busting up the numbers.
So what do you think, Gordon?
It's too early to say, Richard, but it's not too early to say that there are certainly financial pressures on the town. When earlier in my first selectman time, there was a substantial increase every year in the town tax base. That is not happening. It's not as much housing construction. So hearing things like Northeast Builders is going to build is certainly going to help some of that. We are seeing an uptick in some home construction. And we have been able to do careful financial planning. So it's, again, numbers, you can say a lot, but actually our tax rate now is about the same as it was 10 years ago. Now, of course, everybody's property is worth more, so that's kind of a funny number, but it's certainly one of our long-term priorities is to keep the tax rate as low as possible. It is one of the lowest in the state, and that is a good thing as far as, again, making it an affordable place to live. The way we can approach this is to do careful financial planning and having a good working relationship with the finance director, Barbara Herbst, and the Board of Finance chair, Joe Pryor. And again, we're meeting constantly with the Board of Finance, looking at some of these pressures and seeing how we may do things. Like the latest thing we're thinking about is maybe take advantage of some of the solar tax credits to do a major solar install in town to power, to cut into the town's electric bill with solar energy, because there are some incentives to do that. So that's the kind of long-term investment we as a town can make to try to keep our expenses down.
Okay. So we've now reached the point where it's time for closing remarks. A reminder, we've given you a very generous 1 minute or 60 seconds if it's not better. Since Casey began, Gordon, why don't you start now with the closing?
Sure, and again, thank you for the questions, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions that come up. I think the issue tonight is who's the most qualified person to lead the town through its challenges and opportunities. We at Cornwall, I can assure you, will not have a government shutdown. this is where the buck stops. We have to keep our schools open, we have to keep our emergency services running. We have a lot of responsibilities, we have an active social safety net that we maintain. So, and again, we are blessed to have a great volunteer base, and encouraging that is very important. At 5 o'clock this afternoon, I responded to the fire department to an accident down in West Cornwall. I used it at an affordable housing lecture or a forum up in Salisbury, the idea that the most important thing a town does is to pick up its members when they need to be picked up. And the ambulance is sort of can be used as an example of that, but whether people are working to rummage sale, to give kids a high school scholarship, planting bulbs out here to come up in the spring, or the many ways the town works at the food pantry to support people, keeping all that going in an increasingly complex and challenging world is very important. So I look forward to working with everyone here in the future. Thank you.
Casey?
Part of my campaign of what I'm really stressing out there is to develop the future leadership for our town. And I'll start simply like, a question that could be to the next select group is, would you be willing to, or where do you want to be in 5 years? And if they are eyeing the first selectman spot, I'd like to give them an opportunity. Of course, first selectman can be ex officio on all boards and commissions. Well, say for instance, if John Brown, who's on the Board of Finance, is elected, well, he's on the Board of Finance, well, maybe he can sit on a Board of Ed or a P&Z. Not that I'm trying to pass the buck or whatnot, but let them be involved, let them see how all forms of government, within our government, can act on. And that's really important, and it's even down to all the other boards and commissions. Do any of you eye that you may want to be first selectman, or be on the Board of Selectmen, or be on the Board of Finance, and move our town forward? Because once again, you've got to develop the young talent.
Okay. Well, that concludes the first selectman part of the evening. I thank both of you guys. You came in right on time. It's unheard of. Can we applaud the? Gary wants, it's probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a short beverage and bathroom break. It's up to you. Come back in about 5 or 7 minutes and we'll be up for the selection. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
See you.
Now moving on to the select candidates, same format as we had earlier. Just slightly different where, be asked of one candidate, then be short answered by the other two if they wish to. And when we finish, of course, we're on all for our candidates. If you can help with the chairs, the blank chairs, the housekeeping part, fold them up, they're gonna go in that closet. The nice brown chairs also get stacked. And now, more importantly, Richard.
Right. I'm happy to help with the chairs. So welcome back to this is our 3 candidates for selectmen. Most of them need, they're again need no introduction, but I'll do it. We'll start with Jen Herbert Markow, unaffiliated candidate. She says that your family's been part of Cornwall since it started in 1740, which makes you an actual Cornwallian. I would say I've only been here 20 some odd years, so I'm a new. More recently than 1740, you worked at the Cornwall Consolidated School, but she's best known as the Park and Rec Director for the last 7 years, right? And you're also on the Agricultural Commission. So that's Jen. Rocco Botto, sitting next to her, is a Democratic candidate, lived in Cornwall for 15 years, serves on the Fire Department, Park and Rec, and I didn't notice that you coached the CCS baseball team. Also served on the Board of Finance, Cornwall Housing Corporation, the Cornwall Web Committee. You helped develop one of the Cornwall websites, one of the many. You're a digital marketing manager. And you have also been the race director for the Little Guild Run and Wag 5K race. Since it started 10 years ago, and since the Little Guild is our family business, we had to put that mention in. John Brown on the end is a Republican candidate, been here since the 20s, your family has. He served 2 terms on the Board of Finance. He's the treasurer of the Republican Town Committee, works as a safety representative and a trainer at Becton Dickinson in Canaan. So welcome to you all, and we'll start with your opening statements. And you'll forgive me, I hope, if I lose track of who goes first, when, and all that.
We'll keep track.
Yeah, you keep track if I get it wrong, coming up. Why don't we start with you, Jen? Your opening statement for 4 minutes or less, if you wish.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Cornwall Association, for putting on this event. Through my role as Park and Rec Director over the past 7 years, I have been able to see some of the needs of the town. For example, I feel that our town could really benefit from a community center. Just last week, Park and Rec had one of the biggest senior community lunches with 36 people. We would have had 40, but a couple of people had to cancel. That same day, Park and Rec was asked to help host a blood drive. A large community center would be helpful in doing these types of events. There have been several times, especially this summer, where groups and events in Cornwall had possible issues of not being able to host something outside due to rain or the smoke from Canadian wildfires. How nice would it be to know there's a large community center for backup that we can move into if needed? This past weekend, I had the opportunity to talk to several people at my meet and chat and the fire department open house about our town and to hear their thoughts and concerns. Affordable housing was one of them, improving areas in our fire department, helping with the food and fuel bank, and boosting funding for those in need. I will admit I have a lot to learn. I am no expert on affordable housing, on infrastructure, on the needs of the fire department. But I am good at finding experts that I can talk to and learn from so that I can get the most information, see all sides, and make the best decision for our town. I'm quick to learn new things and can be flexible in the face of new changes. For example, when COVID hit, much of Park and Rec was shut down with no sports or senior activities allowed. This left me with the question of what my role should be in the absence of these regular activities. So I adapted to the new needs that arose in the town and found that there was a need to help people get vaccinated. So I learned the computer program, which was not easy to navigate for our senior population. I took on that job and also worked with Sharon Hospital to help any Cornwall residents and those in surrounding towns sign up. As Park and Rec Director, I've had the privilege to meet many people of different ages and have seen the potential of this town to provide great opportunities for children, adults, families, retirees, and business owners. I care deeply about Cornwall and the residents that live in it. We are so fortunate to have such a beautiful town. As selectman, I will do my best to serve the residents of this town and work to maintain Cornwall as a great place to live.
Thanks. Rafa, you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks. It's good to see everyone here tonight. Thanks to the Cornwall Association for putting this on. Now more than ever, Cornwall needs strong leadership to build on the progress that we've made and move our town forward. And that starts with experience and showing up every day, helping people through their hardest days, seeing their biggest joys through thick and thin as the spirit of Cornwall resides in these hills. The pandemic has changed our lives in our town in many ways. The way we work, a return to local, an acceleration of technology, and an unprecedented need for town services and support during these challenging times. With strife, there also came blessings as well, in the form of a new deal for Cornwall, with the West Cornwall Septic Project and a new influx of energy in town, as we work to revitalize our town centers, provide affordable housing, and shape a bright future for Cornwall. This summer, we saw the real impacts of climate change affecting our region, and we need to be prepared as we look ahead and continue to do our part. Things like assessing our current infrastructure, local compound posting, and addressing key regional issues like municipal waste. Another key goal I'm focused on is attracting and supporting local businesses, making it easier to be able to work from home and to run a business. My day job is as a digital marketing manager, and I've worked with many local businesses and nonprofits in the area. And I'm excited to continue to bring this, our town into the digital age and achieve key goals of the town plan across several main areas, including economic development, housing, natural resources, and community and culture. The newly revamped Cornwall Town website in 2021 was a good example of a project I completed as part of the Cornwall Web Committee, which has done a lot to promote our town. And so also to keep our citizens connected and informed while increasing our profile of our town by promoting our natural resources and the unique cultural opportunities to attract visitors and to create new business in town as well. Since 2021, we've had over 30,000 page views for the new Explore pages, which feature information on things like hiking trails, preserves, state parks, visiting the covered bridge, shopping in Cornwall, and other events. In addition, the business directory has also garnered over 30,000 hits and has been a great source for finding local businesses and service-based businesses and things like that in town. Serving on the Board of Finance has allowed me to learn the financials of the town, and I greatly appreciate everything that we do to keep the mill rate down as low as possible, to keep Cornwall more affordable, while also moving things forward like key capital projects, infrastructure improvements, and supporting our exceptional school. Formulating the town budget this year was more challenging than in past years. The largest driver, which was mentioned tonight, being the increased high school enrollment, and also too, other various costs due to market forces. But we did a good job working together and balancing things and taking out a sensibly sized chunk out of our reserves to help buffer the mill rate increase. On a more exciting note, being an avid athlete and explorer of all things Cornwall, I think continuing to promote our natural resources, recreation, and cultural opportunities will be important as we look into the future. Also creating new forms of recreational opportunities in town, like biking trails and working to help revive our river recreational scene as well. I also really like Jen's idea of a community hub and having an inclusive and welcoming place. Over the past 10 years, I've been the race director of a Little Guilds 5K run, which has been one of the largest fundraisers for them over the years. And this year we raised over 25 grand to support the Guild for the construction of their new facility, which I'm really excited about. And it gives me some ideas for other events in town and other ways we can support our nonprofits. Thank you.
John Brown.
I want to make sure it works this time. All right. So it really is an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here in front of all of you. It's an honor to be up here with Jen, Rocco, even Gordon, and Casey. So, as was stated, my family's been here for a really long time. Not as long as Jen's, but fairly long. Now, I myself have lived here for almost 10 years. We would visit my grandfather, who lived on 128. His name was George. Some of the people, more senior members of the community, remember who he is. Now, he gave a lot, and he set an example. He was a forest ranger on Mohawk. He was a tree warden. He was town constable for a period of time. And, you know, he simply wanted to help people. Same thing with my grandmother on that side, who I never had an honor of meeting. She was a member of P&Z. I'll list off some more family members real quick. My uncle, who works at the school, he was a photographer for several events that they had here in town. My mother-in-law worked with Women's Support Services. My wife and my oldest daughter have and currently work with the after-school program. So the part where I come in is, what's the point of my involvement? I chose politics as my involvement. I've always had an interest in politics. I joined the Cornwall Republicans several years ago, and the only thing they've done is aim to foster and mentor me. my ideals. Now, I served 2 terms on the Board of Finance. One of those terms was during COVID, which allowed me to see what happens when we're put in a tough situation and then have to try to keep the town running. That time on the board has also given me insight into how the town is run, how proposals are brought up, how we have to decide, can we afford to do this now or can we put it off? Additionally, as mentioned, I am treasurer on the Cornwall Republican Town Committee, which has helped me also with dealing with budgets. Now, I focus on 3 things in the Chronicle insert and in the Lakeville Journal article, which was active listening, affordable housing, and small business initiatives. We all seem to agree that we need more affordable housing, we need more small businesses. Now, active listening is kind of where it's a little different. So when I got the nomination in August, I was told, go out and talk to people. That's simple enough. Go out and talk to people. Most of us have been doing it our entire lives. So I went around and I talked to people. I listened to what they had to say. And a lot of people, when I would ask them, well, how do you feel about the town? How do you feel about the way things are going? A lot of people said they felt like they were being ignored. And you don't ever want to hear that. You don't want to hear that, I feel like I'm being ignored. I brought up concerns about any kind of situation and, it's not brought up. So bringing me into what I do at work, I'm a safety representative at work. So that means that I have to go up, talk to people, find out what an issue is, and then take that information. And I have to advocate for those people in front of committees, upper management. It's something I do every day. Part of what I want to do, especially from the conversations I've had, is return truck and pay back into the Board of Selectmen. Now that may seem like an attack, and I don't want it to. But going out and talking to people is what I deem to be most important. And that's how people feel, that they're ignored, that they don't have trust or faith, that their concerns are being listened to. In addition to that, we all agree on improving communication. Which is, I would have to say we all agree that we need to improve communication between everybody, not just the Board of Selectmen and the community, but everybody up in the other committees. And to do so, I actually have business cards made up, and I meant to give you one earlier. Anybody else that wants one, these business cards have a dedicated email address and personal cell phone. I wanted to put myself out there as somebody, if you have a concern that you want brought up, that if elected, you can call me. I may not answer the phone at first, but I'll call you back. And I'll bring that up at a meeting if elected.
All right, thank you all. Since you all mentioned affordable housing in the open, let's start on that. John, I guess you'll go first since you went last with the opening. As specifically as you can, what do you want to do to increase the affordable housing stock?
I mean, I honestly would really like to see more affordable housing complexes. I live in Coonman Village, and a large portion of my life.
Sorry to interrupt you.
You want me to use the microphone? Thought I was like, look, this one just worked. This is the janky. We're gonna use this one instead. So I honestly would like to see more affordable housing complexes. I live in Coonman Village, and a lot of the time when I tell people, yeah, I live in Coonman, no one has any idea where it is. And most of the time you can't even see it. People drive by it every day. I've spent large portions of my childhood and my adult life in affordable housing. So, I mean, I've seen the type of people that it benefits. I've seen it benefit senior members of communities, single parents, students, young families. And I would love to see more complexes like Coonman in the town. Robert?
Yes, I see affordable housing is the biggest issue facing our town today. And the pandemic has heightened the awareness of the role that housing plays in that critical foundation in our lives. With the cost of housing rising, the rental market all but evaporated, I've heard from many people across our town that increasingly acknowledge that the lack of affordability in town means that young people can't afford to live in the town they grew up in. Older residents can't afford to downsize from a single family home to an apartment in their community. And people employed in lower paying jobs within the community can't afford to live in the town that they work in and are priced out of the market with the current most affordable dwelling in Cornwall, consistently hovering north of $500,000. Having moved to Cornwall in my early 20s, I can tell you the struggle is real to make a living in our town. So I've been deeply engaged in this issue for several years now as a local affordable housing advocate and a member of the Cornwall Housing Corporation. I've also worked with the Warren Affordable Housing Corporation and key people at the Center for Affordable Housing based in Litchfield. Being involved and passionate about this issue.
Sorry.
No, just kidding.
He's quite strict, you know.
Affordable housing, that's one of the things that came up in my meeting chat, and people had some really good ideas. One of them was, people pass away, they donate, or not even necessarily pass away, they donate part of their land to conservation. So instead of donating it to conservation, donating it to affordable housing, it's one way to get some property that we can build on. I think the P and Z is working on regulations already to put things in place. Maybe we can take some big homes and do a smaller house or a smaller part of that house and allow people to live in there. And I agree, we need to have some more Cougarman villages or Bonnybrook type places in the right spots.
Rocco, let me ask you, I asked this at the first one as well, the candidates as well. Do you have any idea where these projects should go in, where the buildings should be built?
Well, as Gordon mentioned, you know, there's options out there. Sometimes you can look, you know, at private funding and place parcels of land that become available. Certainly on the Cornwall Housing Corporation, we've had a lot of good success over the years with the parcel program and being able to, you know, procure parcels. We recently had 2 that were donated down at the end of Town Street, which was really exciting. So that's going to be an important thing. Also, I'm in favor of multifamily situations and other things that we can do as well. And Cougarman Village has served us very well. Bonnybrook has given seniors a great place to be able to be safe and comfortable in town. And I think we're also looking at more creative solutions too, especially for young people, smaller buildings, more affordable housing at the cost to build today and things like that. So that's key things we've been working on, and it is a real pressing need in our town.
So the question, John, is where would you put these?
Okay, it's a good question. Where could you put any of this stuff? You'd have to find a location that would be able to suit however many units you're planning to put in. I use Cougarman as an example. There's 18 units there. They're all roughly the size of a townhouse. And most people don't even realize it's there. And I know in the past it's come up where people have said, well, you know, it's gonna be this big eyesore, it's gonna be this big eyesore. This was on the CCN. Most people don't even realize Cougarman is where it is. And if you could build more complexes like that and integrate it into a landscape like Cougarman is, I think that's a uniquely Cornwall kind of way of handling that situation. But not in the exact location at this time, I don't know.
Jen, do you think, are we at the point where we should know where it's going?
I think we kind of know where it's going. I mean, we, like Rocco said, we do have some property on Town Street. I'm sure there's other areas that we can definitely build on. We have how many acres of land in Cornwall that has potential being built on?
Are you satisfied with the progress that's being made?
Not completely. I think we could probably move it maybe a little bit faster.
How do you do that as a member of the board?
I'd probably go work with the committee and see what's slowing down and if it's, you know, permits that need to be done, you know, I wanna research and find where, you know, I'll kind of like what I did with the COVID, you know, and people having trouble signing up, so I took the initiative and figured out the program and then I helped people. So the same with affordable housing, there's, you know, something that's slowing things down, I wanna try and work to improve it, make things move faster.
So Rocco, is it slowing down or is it moving as fast as you'd like? And if not, what are you gonna do about it?
Well, we have the Affordable Housing Commission in town, and that's been really beneficial. We now have a housing advocate as well, which is helping facilitate aspects of that. Certainly now on the Cornwall Housing Corporation, we're beginning to look at more opportunities for federal and state grants, certainly too, to help fund some of these future projects while continuing to promote the parcel program, which is a really great way to get people to town. Like for instance, with the parcel program, it's brought a lot of great people to town along with our other affordable housing units, people that serve our fire department, provide valuable services in town and things like that. So I really see all of this as a healthy ingredient for our town, for a vibrant community.
John?
I mean, I think we could be doing more with it. I know Cougar Village, for example, I think the Chronicle commented on it, there were at least 50 individuals or 50 families in a waiting list. So, I mean, when you think about that, that's 50 new residents of the town. So I think we could be moving a lot faster with it. I understand that in some situations, the parcel program is not always available for everybody. If it wasn't for Cougar, I don't know if I would have been able to move to Cornwall. I mean, I lived on Cream Hill and the rent there became unsustainable for us. So if there wasn't an opening at Cougar, I wouldn't be here today. So I really honestly think we could probably be doing more. And sort of like what Jen said, you know, if we gotta find out what's holding it up, what's not kept to our standard or the standard that we feel it needs to be at.
Right. I just want to touch on economic development. Sorry to go over some ground we did earlier, but it's a problem for whoever's on the board, selectman first or not. I'll start with you, Jen. Is there a way, what could the board of selectmen do to make it easier for businesses here? And let me be a little more specific, make it easier for businesses to start and to succeed once they do start.
Well, I think the selectmen could probably work with the P and Z in making sure that they create rules and regulations that help small businesses or businesses move into town.
Okay.
Yes, to add
Who's got his cheat sheet?
to that, I think, you know, when it comes to attracting and supporting local businesses, as Jen mentioned, just making it easier to work from home and to be able to run a business. Sometimes that can be obtained through things like zoning, but then also, as Gordon mentioned, the importance of really kind of helping nurture these businesses as a leader in our town. I would also like to get more involved personally in EDC. My background is marketing and tech and things like that. So I feel like I have a lot to bring. We've also been doing a lot of work to revitalizing our town centers. So that's everything from the Cornwall septic project to the new market and these other kind of key projects going on. Also just continuing to increase our capacity for different recreational opportunities. And just continuing to market our town as a great place to live, work, and play.
John?
I'm gonna say right out, we all almost roughly agree to the same thing, or believe the same thing. But I do believe that, you know, if we were on the board of selectmen, we have to, like Lisa mentioned, we have to make it easier and maybe incentivize having people that have the means to start businesses or to take over these properties to do so. So I think that's what we need to kind of worry about. If we need to find a way of making it more appealing for people to invest in the town.
Do you have any ideas on what to do?
Off the top of my head, no. And you know, that's being 100% honest. You know, being put on the spot 100% right now, I don't have that answer. But it's not something I couldn't look up.
Exactly. Any ideas from the other two? On specifics? No, okay. You already talked about that. What about the financial health in general, the financial health of the town? How do you assess it now, and do you see any threats to it? I forget who, I think John mentioned it first. Or, yeah, Rocco.
Sure, well, serving on the Board of Finance, and like I said, I've always appreciated the way the town manages its finances. I think it's very smart and practical. We do have a good amount of reserves right now, which we put away, for different kind of key projects and things as they come up. So I would say, overall, our town is very well, managed on the financial side of things. We're doing the day-to-day things, and we're also looking further down the road at key capital projects and ways to improve our town as well.
John?
So, kind of similar to Rocco here, both of us are on the Board of Finance. So, the town does have to maintain a certain amount in reserve for operating, in case they get no support from the state. So, with the amount that's left over, I believe we are financially in an okay spot. Now, that's not to say that something could happen that may push us into a spot where we're not. That's the future. That's unforeseeable. It's one of those unforeseeable acts that will happen. But I think at this current time, I think we're fairly well off.
Jen?
I've not served on the Board of Finance yet. But I do know that our town is doing well, our taxes are low. And like Rocco said, we have some reserves. And I also think that we have such a supportive community that if we were ever in need, that we could somehow fundraise or get donations or, I think our town is doing well.
So what challenges do you see for the town? I think actually it's your turn.
Me?
Yeah.
Challenges I see for the town. I go first.
You don't have to be one way.
No, I'll go first.
No, Robert, let's let John.
So challenges that could be further on down the road. So, lack of people coming in. You have to replace, and might sound slightly morbid, but you have to replace people going out with people going in. I know that's the I try. But, if you can't maintain that, you're gonna see increases in taxes, because you gotta get the money somehow. Maybe property might go up or down, because you want people to buy it, or they'll become what's generally known as like blight, where it's just a property that's sat, no one's been able to do anything with it. So I think one of the major issues we have to worry about is finding a way of getting more young families in, more small businesses in. I think that's one of the major concerns, one of the two major concerns that we have to worry about is just replacing people coming in, people going out, and getting more businesses in town. I grew up in North Canaan, we had a bunch of small businesses there. Everybody I knew had a summer job, part-time job, as soon as you hit 16. I've got a daughter who's 15 right now, she does the after school program, but that's not an option right now. There's not a lot of places open that'll take a 16-year-old to work. At least in town, you have to go further out. So that's more small businesses, more people coming in.
Okay. Rocco.
Yes, as I mentioned, I would say housing is probably number one for me. Also, local healthcare and supporting, advocating for a strong sharing hospital and local options. Completing the West Cornwall septic project, which I see as a key project for the future health and prosperity of our town. Continuing to attract small businesses we've discussed in the environment as well, and really ensuring that we're doing our part for the future.
Now, Jen, you have to go.
Well, as these guys say, affordable housing, getting in new families so we can keep Cornwall School going. I also think that a couple of challenges is our two business districts. I think we need to figure out ways to get businesses in there and keep it going. You drive through Kent and you just see oodles and oodles of people, and I'd love to be able to do something similar in Cornwall Bridge and West Cornwall, be able to have people coming and shopping and stopping and seeing our great town.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question, because you mentioned Canaan, which is really busy, Kent is bustling. Sharon's doing, you know, a lot of stuff. A lot of towns around here, actually most towns around here are a lot more active commercially than we are. So what do you guys think? I mean, is that something that we wanna be like? I mean, do we wanna be like Canaan? Or like Kent, or like Salisbury or Lakeville?
I think we should be like Cornwall.
No, I think we should, I think it's important to attract people to Cornwall, you know, just to show them what we have and, you know, show them how great a place it is, and so that we can draw in families and such.
That's way to keep you guys awake. Wake up.
So what was it?
I mean, it's really sort of, how do you envision this town going forward? Should we be more like Canaan or Kent or Salisbury?
Well, I'm gonna go with Jen and say that we should be more like Cornwall, but
But what does that mean?
I think if you look at Cornwall, one thing I've always enjoyed about Cornwall is we've always had a very inclusive and welcoming community. So I think that's an important part of the equation of things, and certainly when you look at a small town, there's certain ingredients, you know, that come into a small town that make it thrive. You know, jobs, healthcare, all these things. And so I think, you know, anything should be balanced, you know, we need to balance conservation with development while shaping a bright future for Cornwall at the same time.
So not to sound like a broken record, but we all agree that we need to be Cornwall. Uniquely Cornwall. Now, most of my experience, I've lived in this area my whole life. Northwest corner my whole life. I was born in Torrington. I grew up in North Canaan. I think we can do more. I think drawing in more people, it's not only beneficial to the town, but you know, any businesses we do have. We've been without the market for quite a while, and I mean, I have to drive by it every day when I go to work and every day when I come back. You know, and there's always people in there. And I think if we don't draw those people in, you're not gonna be able to have small businesses thrive. I can list a couple off the top of my head that I know exist, but they're not all the same. So, you know, Cornwall is its own best kept secret. I'm stealing that from North Kingdom, by the way. They have posters and signs for it. You know, I think Cornwall is the best kept secret in the Northwest corner. But at the same time, we need more. We need more options for people that live here.
So let's talk a little bit about the wastewater project. How do you, who goes first now? I think Rocco does, yeah. How does that fit into your view of the future of Cornwall? What role does that play in the town's future?
Sure. So when it comes to the West Cornwall septic, as I mentioned before, I really see this as a new deal for Cornwall. And much of this came to fruition from the strong support base we've built with our key state and federal officials to make this happen. I've been a vocal advocate for this project and have followed the progress closely over the last couple of years, being a vocal advocate of the project, attending many public hearings. And I really look forward to getting more involved in the municipal side of this, because as Gordon mentioned, in reality, this could be the largest capital project in the history of Cornwall. And again, to me, it's really focused on the health and the prosperity of our town as we look into the future in revitalizing our village centers.
Jen, what about you?
I think it is important to get this wastewater management in, because in order to get businesses down there, they need to get approval from Torrington Area Health for their septic system or their water, and how else to do that by putting in the wastewater system.
John?
It is an important project. I mean, we've already invested in it. So I mean, it is part of the town's future. Sort of like, we're all almost kind of saying roughly the same thing, you know, the businesses in that area need it. Casey had mentioned, you know, he wished that the net was maybe thrown a little wider. And I kind of agree with that. I think We probably could have involved more people, but within the current confines and constraints of the project, I'm all for it.
Even if it means raising taxes a little bit?
And that's tricky. I gotta admit, it is tricky. Nobody wants to end up paying more taxes, especially now. Everything costs more as it is, paying more taxes is not something we want. Unfortunately, if the situation and the need is there and the demand is high enough, we may have to. I would like to avoid that. You'd have to work with budgeting and talking with the Board of Finance and everything like that. But unfortunately, the real life situation is that if it comes up and we have to, then we have to. I don't want to see that. I'm considered to be a lower income individual according to the state, so any kind of tax increase hits harder than it really should. But if it has to, then it has to.
Rocco, how tough a sell would it be for you to vote to raise taxes for, either the wastewater thing or the schools or some other project?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I'm generally, would be in favor, if it came to that. Our town does a great job balancing our finances, but certainly in the fact that we already gotten a $3 million federal grant for this is really exceptional. So I think we need to keep the momentum going with this, and, sometimes there can be increases, but if it's to make a difference in the lives of people in our community, then certainly I'm for it.
Hopefully I'm correct, but I remember talking to Gordon a year or so ago regarding this project. And I believe, Gordon, you had said that by the time this wastewater management starts and we start paying for it, we will be done paying for the renovations on the school. So hopefully by doing that, by finishing paying for the school, we'll be able to start the wastewater management, and it won't necessarily change a lot in our taxes.
But if ask me the same question I asked Robert, I mean, how tough a sell would it be for you to vote to raise that taxes?
It kind of depends on how much it gets raised. If it gets raised a little bit, I mean, Gordon already said before, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the northwest corner, so raising a little bit might not hurt, especially if it's gonna increase, businesses and people coming in.
So we're closing in on 8:30. Let me ask two questions from the audience. And the first one is from Susie Williamson, who wanted us to ask this of the first selectman, but something happened, I don't know. But you guys, selectmen, it's a good question for you too. Will you bring meetings back to in person, and when? Because a lot of people don't like going to the Board of Selectmen meetings on Zoom.
I have no problem with it being hybrid. I like being in person. I feel that it's easier to communicate with people when you're in person than on Zoom. But I know there's definitely many seniors who don't like to travel in the evenings and could just pop on the computer and be able to listen to what we have to say.
Rocco?
Yeah, I definitely like the option of both, and I think as a town, there's some things we can do probably to improve our Zoom and hybrid game. If you look at the library here today, we've got a good setup, so maybe we can use facilities like this, have our own Zoom room, so to speak, but I'm definitely open to having both options, because I think it's important that our citizens are informed about issues going on in town and everything like that.
Once again, I gotta say, I agree with Rocco and Jen. I personally prefer dealing with people face to face. Many years ago, I worked in retail, so I'm used to dealing with people face to face every day, 8 hours at a time. But the hybrid style of doing the meetings is convenient. We've reached that point where it's convenient for people, especially in, let's say, the winter time. Snow can get really bad up here. You can still have your meeting. Or if someone is ill, God forbid. One of the, two of the three of us are up here, one of us gets sick, you can still attend the meeting. Because you have that option of the hybrid meeting, the other two are in person and one person's off. So I think it's more of a convenience. I would like to be full on with seeing people and interacting with people, but I understand that the need for a hybrid style meeting is kind of where we're at.
Okay. Next question comes from Barbara Volkowitz. Some families here in Cornwall need the support of various government programs to make ends meet. If politicians in Washington or Hartford are successful in shutting down the government or cutting or ending the social safety net, how can you, as part of the Board of Selectmen, step in to help our neighbors?
Something. Well, I can actually say that I've been on state assistance up until fairly recently. I have state insurance. I have a family of 6, I'm the primary income. I do work at Beacon Medical, which is a fantastic place. They do pay fairly well, but it is still not enough to be able to support it. So, we have things in town like the food pantry, and there was another fund, and I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, that helps with rent assistance. So I mean, the town does still have its own safety net. Now, I would really hope that the state would be smart enough not to try to force itself into a shutdown. Because my neighbors, hello? There we go. My neighbors, specifically, this one's dead. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, good. It's a lot easier that way, I'm not gonna fight with the microphone. I've got several neighbors that are elderly. In this case, my wife is disabled. They rely on these programs that come out from the state. So, the town has done a fantastic job with assisting with that, with the food pantry, deliveries. I've seen the delivery guy for it come up several times. So, I mean, I feel the town is secure enough to be able to assist for probably longer than it realizes, if the government does shut down.
Rocco?
Yeah,
That one's you.
yeah, since the pandemic, we've seen an increased demand for food and fuel assistance, healthcare, mental health services. And I really applaud all the work that Park and Rec, Social Services, Heather's tireless work, and our food pantry volunteers have really kind of helped Cornwall weather the storm and really come together during the pandemic. And it was amazing. It really reflected the spirit of Cornwall as a town and community coming together. And I'm also really excited about our new social services director, Becky Hobart, and her energy and what she's going to be able to bring to the table. Because part of Cornwall has always been about caring for our own neighbors just down the road, people across the globe. So I have the utmost confidence, no matter what happens, Cornwall people are gonna step in and help others.
Jen?
Kind of the same with Rocco. We do have the state programs. Park and Rec has done the flu and COVID clinics, and just hearing during COVID and how many families struggled and how generous the people of Cornwall were in donating money and going on Amazon and ordering food and everything for the food pantry. I think Cornwall will take care of its own if the federal government decides to shut down.
And that brings us to your closing statements. Remember, you have the luxury of 1 minute. So let's let John start with that. Other things.
So, as we all know, the position of selectman should be selfless. It doesn't have a place for ego or pride. I think it's important that whoever you decide, that they are willing to listen to all sides of the situation, not just one. In addition to that, you gotta be willing to listen and learn. That's probably one of the most important things you can do. As someone that, has lived here my whole life, I've seen, you have, as it's been mentioned, you have people that grow up here that can't quite live here, can't quite live here. So I would really like to help lead the town towards that kind of a future where you have that option, where if my kids were coming up, I have 4 of them that are coming up, they'll be able to not only live here, but they'll be able to work here as well.
Well, it was great to be here tonight, and Cornwall was built by entrepreneurs and hardworking folk. And is still revolutionary today, which affords us the latitude to create the lives we want for our families and the future generations that will call Cornwall home. So let's come together, bridge the gap along the path to prosperity, conservation, and everything that Cornwall is. Thank you.
I know that I've got a lot to learn, but I am willing to learn. And, I look forward to hopefully serving our town.
Well, thank you all. I have to say, I've never interviewed a group of political people who are more in agreement on in my previous life. As a reporter, I find that very frustrating. But as a resident of Cornwall, I think we're all grateful, and thank you all for your time. Thank you for your time.
It's